The great Guy LaFleur passed away on Friday. LaFleur, the most dominant goal scorer in the NHL in the late 1970s, the driving force, or one of the driving forces, behind the Montreal Canadiens' four straight Stanley Cup wins from 1976 to 1979. Our two co-hosts of Locked On Canadiens, Laura Saba and Scott Matla, will join us to discuss the legacy and career of Guy LaFleur and a lot more coming up on this episode of the Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome to this episode of the Locked On NHL podcast. Gil Martin, so glad to be with you as I am every Monday. And thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. Without further ado, we'll take you to our two co-hosts from Locked On Canadiens as they discuss the career and the legacy of the late Hockey Hall of Famer, Guy LaFleur.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Locked On Canadiens. This is a special bonus episode. We wanted to spend a few minutes talking about Guy LaFleur, his legacy, and what he meant to Montreal. So if you're joining us, thank you very much, and we hope that you share your memories of him too. My name is Laura Sab. I'm one of your hosts, and I'm joined, as always, by Scott Matla. And it's been a really sad day today in Montreal and across the NHL, in Canada, and among hockey fans everywhere, as a true legend has passed away. You can look at his accolades. You can look at the number of Stanley Cups he's won. You can look at his point totals, which are astronomical. You can look at all of that on the ice. But I think as a whole, what he meant to the city, the country, the game, the province particularly, was as an ambassador to hockey.
Yeah, it's been a very hard day in that, like, there's no easy way to say goodbye to not only someone who transcended, just being a hockey player in hockey's cathedral in Montreal, but someone who was so iconic across the league here. And I look at it in back-to-back weeks here. The Islanders in the NHL lost Mike Bossy on Good Friday last week, and the Canadiens said goodbye to Guy LaFleur a week later. And there's a very iconic photo of the two of them shaking hands in a line at some point when they had played. And now you look at it and go, both of these guys are no longer here. And the hockey world is worse off for that. And since I saw the news first thing this morning, I've been trying to come up in my head, how do you properly eulogize a guy that, I admittedly have only gotten to see the classic clips of him playing. I wasn't born in the era of the Montreal Canadiens dynasty and their elite all-time domination of the NHL, but I knew Guy LaFleur. And you don't lead the Montreal Canadiens in so many categories without being so much larger than life. He was a superstar that stands out in a franchise of hockey icons. Players like Jean Beliveau and Ken Dryden and Maurice Richard and Henri Richard and Patrick Waugh and all of these players. And then you have Guy LaFleur, just leads in so many things, and the outpouring across not only the Canadiens fan base and organization, across the NHL from other teams and players from other teams. It is someone who they're so much bigger than the game of hockey, and the world is worse off for not having him here. And I look at this and I have ingrained in the back of my mind as a Canadiens fan is that Stanley Cup final against the Bruins, where there's a too many men on the ice penalty, and you hear LaFleur is coming out rather gingerly on the right-hand side, and every Canadiens fan knows what happens next. It is part of the lore and the building block of this club. and he is gone now. He is no longer with us, and I hope he is at peace. I hope he gets to say hello to Jean again when he sees them when he gets there. I thought I was all right. We've lost hockey players. We lost Jean Beliveau. We lost Henri Richard. We've lost members of the Punchline and so many other people. And then Yvon Cornway was on the radio talking today, and he goes, "I feel very alone today." And I look at that and I go, the Canadiens are much less full than they were just a week ago. And there's no real way to say goodbye that's easy. So screw cancer always. And I really hope that Guy LaFleur is at peace, and I hope his family has all the support and love they need right now.
And that's very, very important, is that he leaves behind not just fans who loved him and people who appreciated what he did on the ice, but true people in his life who loved him, his friends, his family. And we're thinking of them right now. And it's one of those things where, the leader of the nation, for example, said that this was one of the first players that he fell in love with. If you were lucky, which Scott and I were not, we were not lucky enough to be around for those Stanley Cups, for Guy LaFleur, for the whole arena to be chanting his name. My own personal memory of him was I was in the Bell Center at the same time as him one time. It was the Centennial game, and he said my favorite thing that a hockey player has ever said to the city, which was, "You fans partied some nights. We partied every night." And I think that kind of epitomizes it, is that he didn't just play hockey. He loved being a hockey player, and he was so good at it. There's so many people that, they have talent, or they have determination, or they have that personality, and Guy LaFleur had all of it. And everything you're hearing today from fans is, "I met him and he was the greatest to me. When I was a kid, he said this to me. He would stop and sign autographs for any kid who wanted it. He would give you the time of day. He had very strong opinions, and I recall disagreeing with a lot of those opinions over time, but he was never afraid to be honest. And he truly, truly, you could tell how honored he felt when the QMJHL retired his number earlier this season. That was something that... you could see it on his face, how touched he was. And he just, I think, Jeff Molson said that he asked him to be an ambassador for the Canadiens. I think he was an ambassador for hockey and for sport. I mean, lots of people know who he is that don't even care about hockey, that don't even know about hockey. They've heard his name and they know he's one of the greats. And I think, there's something to that, his determination. And I just feel like what people call his generosity of spirit. I think he really, really embodied that. It was really hard to watch, actually. You're watching professional journalists and broadcasters, and they're trying to put it into words, and they're all tearing up. They're all, you hear their voice breaking. It's a really hard thing to kind of put into words, and just how many people he touched. A lot of people called him my friend. A lot of people called him my idol. And there were so many people that were able to call him both. And just the sheer number, in my mind, says a lot about him. I think he really will be missed. I don't know what to say that would really encapsulate his legacy in the short amount of time that we had, or that we have to say it. I have loved just scrolling through people's stories, whether it's on news sites, whether I'm watching broadcasts, whether I'm reading tweets, whether I'm looking at Facebook, Instagram. I have loved hearing all the stories of when I was a kid. My dad took me to meet Guy LaFleur, and he was so great to me. Or when I was a kid, or when I turned on the TV and I saw him play, and what that meant to me, and all of that. And it's every memory is either, it's never just on ice, right? Or off ice. Every memory is all of it. It's truly amazing. And I know that he meant a lot to Quebec in general, specifically, I mean. And there's a lot of talk about Quebec wanting to give him a state funeral if his family allows. It's not the same kind of state funerals you would give a dignitary. It's more of a family type, like, the whole province is able to partake in it. It's a huge honor. But I also, I do think that his family right now, just like all of us, it's a huge loss, and we need to kind of respect his family and send them our condolences and keep them in our thoughts at this time, for as much as like we loved him from afar, and that's the reality of being a fan. Like, there are real people that were touched by this, and that have been left behind by this. So I think what we would like to do is to invite all of you to share your memories of Guy Lafleur with us. We would love for you to, we would share them on our episode, and we would love to hear from you. We would love for you to express how you feel. We want to provide, a little bit of an avenue, and we'll definitely be talking about him as the week goes on next week. And we thank you for joining us for this episode, because we just needed to express it. We needed this sadness to go somewhere, and we wanted to share it with other people who we know are feeling the same way right now. So thank you so much for listening to us, and we will see you on our next episode.